Conformity psychology. Have you ever observed that the majority of people appear to follow a similar pattern? There is an unseen guide that dictates how we should behave, think, and even feel, and it influences everything from social media to life decisions. The worst part is that, despite the fact that we understand the importance of this guidebook, many of us wind up blindly adhering to its guidelines. However, why does this occur? The urge to fit in and the fear of being too different are only two of the psychological layers that make up social conformity, which is far more potent than it first appears. In actuality, we seldom ever realize the influences that go into every decision we make in an effort to blend in. For anyone who wants to live a free life, it is not only fascinating, but also essential to comprehend this psychology. Are we truly living if we devote our entire lives worried about other people's opinions? The yearning for approval and the dread of being different are deeply ingrained, yet few individuals are aware of this. And the key to living a more authentic life may lie in understanding how this influences our choices. What if I told you that there was a way to break free from this societal pressure, release unseen bonds, and create a unique identity that defies expectations? Although this shift is difficult, people who comprehend the mechanisms of conformity find that being unique is liberating rather than only an option. Secrets about our society, and more significantly, about each of us, are revealed by the psychology of compliance. The most intriguing aspect is that by comprehending this phenomenon, we can find a purpose that beyond our expectations. Although social networks have increased the power of social conformity in a degree never seen before, this power has always existed. Anyone can now see how their actions, beliefs, or decisions are evaluated instantly and in public. The urge to conform to societal norms extends beyond simply adopting prevailing views or trends. Additionally, it entails a nearly instinctive desire to avoid being excluded. The influence of algorithms that draw attention to behavior deemed abnormal contributes to the rapid confrontation of those who stray from the intended course. This entails both the fear of rejection and, for some, the desire to examine their own viewpoint without being constrained by prevailing norms. Even if this appears to be an initial challenge, defying the norm opens up possibilities. An almost instinctive cycle of conformity is created by the drive to fit in, which is heightened by networks. It's as like we are compelled to follow certain actions or beliefs when we see someone we respect or who have a certain amount of influence online. This urge is further supported by the fact that being authentically unique can occasionally mean deviating from the norm. However, that is the origin of social innovation. People who choose to deviate from the social norm and adopt a nonconformist posture ultimately find viewpoints and angles that a majority that adheres to the standard frequently overlooks. Even while it may feel comfortable, conformity stifles originality and prevents the growth of fresh ideas. Courage is certainly necessary to maintain an authentic identity and resist social pressure. Even more difficult is when this pressure appears to be so normal, as though it were the only sensible way to escape the awkwardness of social criticism. We have normalized this conformity phenomena since it is so embedded in our daily lives. Individuals who choose to follow their own path, the nonconformist path, frequently discover a special calling. But it's important to remember that this position defies societal standards and goes against the ease of routines. There is some difficulty involved in defying social standards, but it is precisely this discomfort that makes real progress possible. Social innovation will stall if everyone simply maintains the existing quo. It is nearly impossible to generate original viewpoints, and creative ideas are suppressed. Consider people who opt for unconventional careers or lives as an example. They frequently encounter suspicion and even opposition from family members, but they ultimately lead to a fresh perspective. Every time someone chooses to do something different, a new avenue becomes available. It's as though every act of nonconformity is a seed that, when it sprouts, contributes to the richness and diversity of a society that embraces innovation. This decision is not simple, though, and it is met with internal as well as external opposition. We frequently shun non-conformity because we are too lazy to question the familiarity of routines. After all, according to the rules, provides an emotional safety zone and uses less mental energy. The discomfort of challenging the status quo and the fear of being different must be conquered by anybody who dares to be different. Asking oneself which norms I blindly obey is a wonderful exercise for anyone interested in exploring this route. Alternatively, try removing yourself from the networks for a bit to observe how your own thoughts emerge. For people who want to be free and creative, the nonconformist path thus appears to be a less traveled but incredibly rich one. Even if we are unaware of it, fear of death is an unseen force that drives a lot of our actions and choices. According to the philosopher Ernest Becker, we can defend ourselves against this dread by adhering to social norms. He asserts that we might distance ourselves from the agony of our finitude and acquire an eternal sense of significance by conforming to the rules and ideals of our culture. In an attempt to make a lasting impression by adhering to patterns that should be continuous, many people adhere to this cultural heroism as a means of overcoming their own death. This conduct turns conformity into a type of existential security by acting as a buffer against the fear of dying. People's adherence to values, customs, and social standings that offer some degree of acknowledgement is indicative of this quest for cultural heroism. If death is unavoidable, then doing what is morally or societally valued appears to be a means of being remembered, even if in a roundabout way. But is there any true gratification in this heroism? It might even be consoling, but it can also suppress uniqueness. People disassociate themselves from the potential for personal growth when they devote their lives to objectives that are only deemed legitimate by the group. Many people give in to the comfort of culture's illusion of permanence, losing the opportunity to pursue a special purpose. True freedom, however, necessitates challenging these ideals and viewing death as an inspiration to produce something original. A real-world illustration of this would be someone who chooses to abandon a demoralizing family custom. They follow their own courses rather than being constrained by inherited aspirations. In this instance, resisting conformity is a means of appreciating one's own life and making a mark that shows a genuine connection with oneself, rather than an act of pointless resistance. It is a typical burden to live in fear of death, but it is a different decision to embrace this reality and use it as motivation. People discover their own kind of heroism when they recognize that their actions are justified by their own need for importance rather than by social rules. But by challenging these assumptions and realizing their worth, the individual starts to confront death directly, no longer avoiding it, but using it as inspiration to live a genuine and independent life. Therefore, the fortitude to make meaning where few can see it is the source of true cultural heroism. This bravery is attained by daring to pursue a goal that goes above the norm rather than by conforming. Listing the values that have true significance and those that have only been assimilated from the surrounding society is a useful activity to investigate this concept. Knowing this gives everyone the opportunity to choose a path that is based on their own vision, one that defies convention and stimulates fresh thinking. Along the way, the fear of dying turns into a driving force for pursuing genuine, independent freedom from social norms. Few people have the fortitude to walk the road of the nonconformist, but many admire it from a distance. This path is a life decision driven by the desire to be true to oneself rather than an act of defiance without justification. The nonconformist finds a special and frequently solitary significance in their own path, whereas the majority choose the security provided by the rules. It's similar to traveling a less traveled road when the path isn't marked by other people's footprints. Walking this route offers an unmatched sense of independence, but you must acknowledge that it will frequently necessitate patience and resistance in the face of miscommunication and criticism. This is a difficult path because people who adapt, shape themselves, and follow the crowd are valued by society. However, those who choose to deviate from this popular script have the chance to develop a strong and genuine sense of self that is independent of other people's acceptance. The nonconformist is the one who pursues a life that makes sense to them, not to others, despite pressure to fit in. And that doesn't imply ignoring customs and values. Rather, it means considering what is truly important. Because it involves facing concerns, criticism, and even loneliness, this type of search necessitates an inner strength that not everyone is ready to develop. This method teaches people to value individuality as a gift. A person creates space for the emergence of original viewpoints when they decide not to conform to imposed conventions. Consider a person who chooses to pursue a career that truly inspires them rather than the one that their family has always expected them to do. This choice is difficult and frequently raises a number of questions both inside and outside the company. If this video is making you think about how social norms influence our choices, how about leaving a like so I know you're enjoying it? And tell me in the comments, have you ever found yourself following something just to fit in, even if you didn't totally agree? The famous hype. But the joy of living in accordance with your true beliefs surpasses the difficulties. That is the strength of individual liberty, constructing a life that is in line with a profound personal purpose rather than merely fulfilling expectations. Individual freedom entails a number of renunciations for the nonconformist. It is necessary to examine oneself and face one's own desires and fears head-on in order to give up the security of routines and certainties. This decision frequently raises questions, and many people choose not to embark on this path because they are too lazy to deal with these difficulties. However, extraordinary richness is found exactly in this process. The life of the nonconformist is not completely meaningless, despite what many people believe. Instead, it is driven by a strong desire to be real and a strong opposition to forced conformity. It is worthwhile to embrace self-knowledge enhancing methods for people who aspire to follow this route. Writing a journal, making time for motivational reading, or even participating in groups that encourage idea sharing can all be effective strategies. The nonconformist also understands that every true decision is a step toward living a really free life as their dedication to their own vision grows. This is what nonconformity really means. A continuous process of social innovation and self-discovery that both questions established conventions and encourages fresh perspectives on life. Although it sounds encouraging, breaking free from social standards is a difficult process that involves both internal and external challenges. Overcoming one's own laziness or the propensity to prioritize ease over what truly moves us is frequently the first obstacle. Comfortable habits and other people's acceptance can provide a sense of security for this laziness. Who hasn't wanted to let go instead of face something they truly desire? Routines provide many people with a sense of security that is difficult to abandon. Routines and social conventions are, after all, like a simplified life manual, with expectations and appropriate behavior listed on each page. It seems sense that being different is frequently frowned upon in a culture that promotes conformity. This laziness is a defense mechanism against the dread of taking chances, not necessarily a sign of a lack of will. Many people are prevented from discovering their own potential because it is simpler to follow the road that others have planned out. The first step for everyone who wants to pursue personal autonomy is to acknowledge this laziness and consider whether it is genuinely beneficial to their well-being or merely for their comfort. Apart from indolence, fear is another significant barrier to nonconformity. The dread of being noticed and subjected to social criticism frequently proves to be a formidable obstacle. Conformity is frequently rewarded in society, while uniqueness is punished. People who take a different route frequently experience feelings of loneliness, which leads many of them to give in to their impulses. The dread of being different then turns into a strong internal barrier. However, everyone who wishes to live a genuine life must realize that fear is unavoidable but manageable. One useful tactic is to attempt challenging minor, everyday conventions, like how you dress or speak, to gradually become accustomed to feeling unconventional. But it requires more than just bravery to overcome these obstacles. Managing the urge to adapt requires ongoing self-control. Therefore, cultivating critical thinking skills is crucial. Reading works that deal with dismantling conventions and conformity, such Ishiro Kishimi and Fumitake Koga's The Courage Not to Please, is one useful suggestion. These readings support the spirit of resistance and serve as a reminder that, despite their intimidating nature, the difficulties of non-compliance are worthwhile for people who value personal autonomy. Pursuing non-conformity ultimately entails more than just defying the norm. It's about developing a strong resistance to social pressures and realizing that the journey will be challenging but worthwhile. Deep knowledge of one's own values and a constant practice of dismantling norms are necessary for this social liberation process. The key for anyone who truly wants to break free from social influences is to exercise this resistance every day until it becomes ingrained in their identity. The nonconformist gradually comes to understand that, despite the path appearing challenging and isolating, their sense of self becomes stronger with each step. If you've made it this far, I hope you've been able to reflect on how social norms can influence our lives and the power that authenticity has to set us free. If you like this content, please like it because it really helps the channel to grow and reach more people. Let's spread this message together.